was born in Adelaide, grew up in an environment where it was fairly strong family ties and kinship with other members of the community. I remember growing up sort of like spending a lot of time on the River Murray in South Australia, as well as just being surrounded by a lot of uncles and aunties. My grandfather, he's from Central Australia, he's Arunta. He moved down to Adelaide in the early 1930s, where he actually met my grandmother, who was a Ghana woman. So I identify myself as being both Ghana from Adelaide as well as Arunta from Central Australia. My mother was born in Adelaide, and my father was also born in Adelaide, but my father's side is actually Welsh background. Even though I've been brought up purely as an Aboriginal person, I still recognise the identity that I have on my father's side. I have an older sister and 4 brothers. My younger brother, he had a disability since he was born. I have a strong attachment and understanding of the needs of our people with disabilities. Our communities, the Aboriginal community, we do not look at people who have this term that's defined as disability as being any less different or any different to other members of our community. Even though my brother had a disability, he was a very active participant in the Aboriginal community, and he showed strong leadership skills, and that leadership skills was recognised by his involvement with working with government in developing strategies. I think from his work is really the catalyst as to why I'm continuing his legacy. I come from a family that was involved with law and order. My father was a police officer. My grandfather, my uncle, worked for a number of years with the South Australian Police. My uncle actually worked for the police for about 50 years. He received the Police Service Medal, Order of Australia and South Australian Aboriginal of the Year. I found he had a lot to do with my upbringing and sort of the way I think today. I think he really made inroads in regards to black-white relations in the state where I come from.
He was a hero to the people around the region. He was actually their dreaming legend. He was a full man, a traditional man who had the knowledge of the region and of all the people. He actually liaised between the white man and the black man.
The legendary Aboriginal tracker Jimmy James, whose razor-sharp eyes helped nab killers and fugitives, as well as finding people lost in the bush. Jimmy saved the life of a young Wendy Pfeiffer, who'd been abducted and left to die in remote bushland.
I've met a lot of the police that used to work with my uncle. They didn't look at him as an Aboriginal person, they just looked at him as Jimmy, or Uncle Jimmy as some of the coppers used to call him. They didn't notice a colour thing there. As to how he would go today, I actually think he'd be more identified as an Aboriginal person today. I think sort of the respect that was given towards my uncle was reflected when he passed away back in 1991, where you had the South Australian Police doing a guard of honour. Prior to coming to work in the New South Wales government, my background was working in mainly community advocacy, being involved with the Australia Council for the Arts, the National Indigenous Arts Reference Group, where we advocated for the protection of copyright for Aboriginal artists, especially the areas where there was a lot of exploitation going on. I worked for about 4 years with the New South Wales Department of Justice and Attorney Generals. For a while, I also worked for Law Access New South Wales. I find that the work I am currently doing with family and community services, as well as what I've done elsewhere within the public service, is that it's really given me a direction of where I want to go. I'm very proud of my Aboriginal history and acknowledge the sacrifice many of our people have made. I continue to follow in my family tracks, and it is from their legacy that makes me who I am today. I always feel those who have moved on are guiding me through their spiritual presence as I continue on my journey.